Hey, welcome everyone. We are a couple minutes ahead of time. Just open the doors and sit back and relax, and we'll get started shortly. I'll be right back. Hey everyone, it's the top of the hour. People are still joining, so I'm going to give it just another minute, and we'll get started in 1 minute. Hey, welcome everyone. Chip Rogers, Chief Partner Officer at WorkSpan, and I am really excited to be joined this morning by Maureen Little, Ed Sabalos, and Jeff Roth. We're going to get started in just a minute, and just wanted to go through a little bit of housekeeping before we get going. So, really excited to get going. Thank you all for joining. We have folks from a lot of different technology companies joining, software, hardware, telco, systems integrators, kind of everybody. So really excited to have everybody here and joining us today. A little bit of housekeeping. So add your picture in the platform. That would be great, just so everybody can see who you are. And if you ask a question, then it shows your picture as well. Introduce yourself. Let us know where you're joining from. We'd love to hear from you, and ask questions. You can just ask questions in the chat. We'd love to hear your questions, and this is going to be a really interactive format. So ask away, and I'm sure the panel will be ready to take your questions. And everything happens in the Stage tab in the platform. So that's where you can stay throughout the session. I will share a couple of goodies here. So we have, if you haven't already, download the State of Co-Selling Report, Hyperscaler Edition. We created this survey actually in the spring with Partnership Leaders. Partnership Leaders is a great partner of WorkSpan, and it's really informative. Got a lot of really great information in there. It's all from you. It's all from practitioners, and it's about co-selling with hyperscalers, challenges, what's working, what's not working, the value of each hyperscaler that everybody's working with. Really just a lot of great information in there. We also have a case story from DeepWatch. We actually had Brett Fountain from DeepWatch on our Ecosystem Business Summit last week. I think it was just last week. And DeepWatch has been a terrific customer, and love working with them, and have a little bit of information about the value that they've gotten working with WorkSpan. And finally, navigating the path to Chief Partner Officer. We have a document there, a guide there that will help you on your path, your personal path to leadership as a partner leader. Hit those with your phone. We got the QR codes, and we'll put the links in the chat as well. Okay, I'm going to bring everybody in here. Maureen, Jeff, and Ed, and actually I'm going to take the slides down. Let's do that. Let's do it this way. There we go. That's better. Now we're not just tiny little dots up on the top of the screen. So, hey everyone, welcome.
Hey, thanks for having us.
Yeah, fantastic. So just a quick intro for everyone. I'll start, Maureen, with you. Maureen Little is Vice President of Strategic Alliances at Okta, and really glad to have you joining us, Maureen. You're joining from Sacramento this morning.
I am, Northern California. It's bright and trying to wake up right now, but thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, excited to have you, and gosh, Maureen, you have done tremendous things at Okta, and previously with Turn, which was actually then acquired by Singtel, right?
Yeah.
I think you were there for a number of years, like 9 years, I think. So
we don't do math at this age, Chip. We don't right. We don't add them up together.
Don't. I screwed up there.
I'm kidding.
So great to have you, Maureen, joining, and Ed Sabalas, head of partnerships at Everflow for the last 4 years. Ed, welcome. Oh, Ed, you're on mute. So.
There you go.
There we go.
Very much. It's a pleasure to be here with Maureen and Jeff and you. And I'm sitting here in Orlando, Florida, sunny and dry at this time of the year.
We have 2 Californians and 2 Floridians on the call today. So
we like to balance things.
Yes,
that's right. 2 sides of the country. Perfect. Yeah. So Ed, head of partnerships at Everflow, a number of years at Hive Lab, and then Cisco for about 10 years prior to that, I believe. Right.
Correct. I have having all my career without counting years. Right. Going from corporate to startup, then started back to corporate. Yeah, that's pretty much all around the world.
Yeah. And Jeff Roth, VP of Strategic Alliances at Avalara, the last 5.5 years. All right, one number.
That's right.
And then prior to that, you're joining from Delray Beach, right?
Yeah. Also, nice weather here. Avalara, wonderful growth story. Love being a part of it. Partners are a critical component to Avalara's strategy and everything we've been able to accomplish for the last 20 plus years. I started out in public accounting, was in the manufacturing space for a while, and then I was an Avalara partner for a dozen years, running a large VAR for Sage, NetSuite, Acumatica. We had some proprietary products in the supply chain space, EDI, and also warehouse management solutions. So it's an interesting background for me to be here, but it's been a great ride, have a great team, and really enjoy enjoy everything about Avalara.
Well, I think that's one of the things that's interesting about you all and this panel is that, Avalara, Okta, Everflow have just, tremendous partner ecosystems. And so I think it's, you bring a lot of that experience to the discussion today. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, well, so our topic today is going to be leading by example, inspiring partner teams to excel. And you're all leaders and have a lot of years, although not too many years, right, Maureen, experience leading partner teams. And so let's start with, I think, we wanted to start with with the leader themselves, right? So what are some important qualities of a leader leading teams, particularly in partnering teams? Who would like to jump in? Maureen, I see you.
Well, I'm like, which one? I mean, like, there's so many good ones. So I believe there are certain leadership qualities that are important no matter what. But if you were going to hone in on being a partnership leader, there's a couple nuances. And one of those nuances is a ton of clarity, because you're dependent on so many other teams within your company, right? You're super dependent on your product. You're super dependent on your sales organization, pricing and packaging. You have to make sure you're extremely clear what your partners need from you to be successful on your behalf. And it has to align to your sales model. So that's number one, is just, I probably, I stick with the rule of 7 a lot. I repeat myself probably to the annoyance of my team. But if you're not clear and you don't repeat your communication, I don't believe you align, and then you make as big of an impact. And then as far as the team, same thing. I have to explain to the team what they're doing and how it's a piece of a larger, we have a large direct sales team, a large direct marketing organization. So if I don't explain, hey, what you're working on here is a piece of XYZ, then how are they going to know what they're being tasked on? And then also being really clear when something isn't going well. So we have a big raise your hand and say, ooh, I tried to do this with my partner and it's an epic failure. Let's talk about the failure. Let's work backwards. So clarity is probably the biggest one that I work on.
That's a good one. Yeah, I think you're right, because partner leaders, partner managers are responsible across so many parts of the organization, right? And so having that clarity to not only with the team, but also throughout the organization is critical. Jeff, your thoughts?
So I like what you said earlier, Chip, about leading by example. It's a very important tenet of mine. I try to balance delegating and doing. I have my own pillars, I guess, that I use with my leaders. The kind of things that I want them to come to me and, get my blessing. The kind of things that they can just do on their own and inform me, what's going on. The things they, can do that we talk together through, and then things that they can just do and I never need to know about. And so bucketing those kinds of activities does provide the kind of clarity that Maureen was talking about. So everybody knows what their responsibilities are. We also have a lot of cross-functional teams and interactions with those teams. We're highly dependent on product, partner marketing, the sales teams. And I always find that I'm educating the teams, my leaders, the other teams at Avalara about the importance of partners. We're a very customer-focused company, and the people that are not really facing partners, educating them on the effect that their actions have on partners is important. And so it's a message that me and my team talk about a lot, and how we spread that throughout the organization. And finally, I think just being self-effacing and real. I think I find that others want me to mentor them, which is a great compliment, but I try to focus on the things that are really going to help them both in their job today and in their future career pathing, hopefully at Avalara. But I find being interactive with the team wherever possible is also really important. I think people get inspired by that. I will attend meetings with partners and one of our alliance managers as much as I can, as often as my schedule permits, and being on the ground, seeing all that, listening, talking about it, debriefing, and putting an action plan together, I find is really helpful as well. So
yeah,
that's my little short list for you.
Yeah, that's a good it's a good short list.
Yeah, thank you.
Ed, your thoughts?
I side with everything that my colleagues were sharing before me, and let's say the way I think about this is there are a couple of things that are, let's say, table stake requirements for anyone that is doing people management, right? That has to do with clear vision, clear objective, transparency, authenticity, a huge amount of empathy, which are qualities that, again, used to be qualities that will create an advantage maybe 20 years ago, 10 years ago. But today is table stakes. Like every individual contributor, every manager expect their bosses to have those qualities, like being able to apply empathy, being really authentic, clear communication, etc. So that's kind of elevating the bar, but in a way, it's table stakes today. I don't think any leader can really survive out there with that. And then you have the specific things that have to do with how your particular partnership model works, because it's not the same if you're in an organization when you're selling through partners than you're in a compared to someone that is leading a team in a SaaS company, or a team that is very much focused in cross-selling. So there are then some nuances on what it means to lead. So in some cases, you have to have a lot of tolerance in terms of letting them run in their own experiments, apply their own ideas, run their own initiatives. Of course, it needs to be kind of a somehow there has to be some guardrails around it. But there are situations where you have to have that flexibility. You have to let them bring their own DNA to the game and innovate new things. Whereas in other environments, you have to have more like a clarity and discipline in terms of drive the organizations purely by metrics, because it's a very, very scalable, large organization where you have to be more focused on practices like the quarterly business review and very, very strict with the metrics. And so I would say that ultimately it's about having situational leadership, right? The ability to identify what are those key practices that apply particularly in your context with the team that you have, in the company you're representing and leading. There is no one size fits all in a way.
You bring up a really interesting one, which is the I guess the leaving enough flexibility and letting, because you learn from experience, right? And so you want your team to do that as well. But you said guardrails, so it's like you want to let them learn along the way, but not fail too big, right? So that you gotta put a little bit of obviously oversight and tracking a little bit of that in the process as well.
Yes.
Have you thought of, like, how do you balance that between putting too much control in place and not having challenges where there's a kind of a big failure?
Well, I guess there are a million formulas or approaches. The top one or two comes to mind is there are things with which you're not willing or not able to run any type of experimentation because it's so big, so significant that you really have to kind of limit the scope of that particular experimentation
Hmm.
to very isolated environments because you cannot play with that. Anything that is where there is some form of revenue flow and there are many stakeholders involved, you have to be very careful on the scope of the experiment. Like, okay, you can try this with 400 partners. Let's pick one, two. So the size and the scope of the pilot is a way with very clear metric, like what is the hypothesis you're trying to prove here? Let's test this. Let's see if we get enough qualitative evidence, and then go after the quantitative evidence. So that's a way
Hmm.
to do.
Hmm.
Enterprises are very used to do that using different methodologies and approaches. I think that that's one way. But when I talk about experimentation, I'm thinking I place particular value in the fact that sometimes we take for granted a lot of processes that work, but we bring people that have different mindsets, experiences, and they're able to look at the same problem from a different vantage point and shine some light on things that we never considered that we thought like is not broken, then don't fix it. But these people, again, people that have everyone has a different lens to understand this, to understand something, and they bring these new ideas. And sometimes, again, you don't want to make changes when things are working, especially when it's revenue related. But when you bring that, when you encourage your teams and give them the space and the support to run these control environments, control experiments in control environments, you discover great things. Like one of the people in my team 2 years ago, she was doing anything but partnership. I have no idea. He didn't even know what the word CRM means, right? At that level. She's been in sales, an amazing person, amazing potential. 2 years later, she discovered I would call a fundamental flaw in how we were engaging our referral partners to build relationships at scale. And it's something no one noticed, but she was able to pinpoint and then say, hey, it's not working. This is not smart. And she was right, right? Completely different lenses. It's not hard.
That's a great story. Yeah. Any other thoughts on this, Maureen, Jeff?
Lots of thoughts, just trying to make sure we what are the
Yeah.
what are the things that we want to get out of these leadership styles. And but I think I agree with a lot of what Ed said around finding the right in our persona. I would just, maybe one of the other things is and I'm not saying anyone's doing it, but let's remember not to do everything inside the partnership team. We live in an echo chamber. We all think
Mhm.
partnerships are awesome. We think
Mhm.
our revenue is super valuable. Make sure anything that you're doing is brought outside, and your finance team, your CFO knows what you're doing. Your head of sales understands what you're doing, because we all do this. We talk to each other all the time.
Mhm.
We actually really, really need to make sure that the CRO understands more than anyone else. The CFO understands, and your CEO even. So maybe one of the leadership principles should be, it's our job to make sure it's escalated and we're outside of our echo chamber.
Yeah, and I think that's it's a really great point, Maureen, because I think it's also, and that's part of leadership and inspiring the team as well, because everyone's a part of the team and everyone needs to see the value that the team is bringing to the company and that it's being recognized. I love that.
Being recognized, but sorry, it's not just about being recognized. It's that it's actually part of your whole sales and strategy. It's whatever is going on, however you're working with your team, is it actually a part of the entire company's business strategy,
Mhm.
right? And yes, you want to talk about celebrations, but more importantly, you want to be doing those tests, having people understand what your team is working on, and make sure that it's valuable and that everyone sees it.
Awesome. Okay, so next topic that we wanted to talk about was challenges. Challenges that leaders face, generally as leaders, but then also, how are those things? How are they? What are the specific challenges, for partner leaders? Any thoughts here? Anybody want to jump in?
Yeah, I have some. Yeah,
Jeff.
is my audio okay, Chip? Because I'm having some issues.
Yeah. No, I can hear
No,
you
it's okay?
perfectly. You're just the video is not quite catching up. Is not is you're just a little bit, but we can hear you perfectly.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Let me go through some challenges. Clearly, with a high growth company, we've got quotas that are constantly, increasing, and that's something that various people on the team don't always respond well to. So keeping that in check, and always making sure that everyone's clear on the what, the why, is important. One of the things that's a challenge is we can only control so much of the partner experience during, all of the responsibilities that alliance managers have in building trust with partners, in managing relationships, educating them on our products, helping them fill the pipeline. All of that are our primary responsibilities. But what happens after the sale, with our various, customer-facing teams, can be challenging. And sometimes the experience that a partner or one of their customers receives is not exactly ideal. And since we're not directly managing that, that can be challenging. And that is a topic that we discuss on our team and with some of the other teams that are impacting our partners. So those are challenges. We have lots of asks, extracurricular projects, things that need to be done beyond our primary jobs. So keeping that balanced with everything can sometimes be a challenge for me and the leaders on my team. I have others, but come back to me.
Yeah, I just want to
after.
echo two things that you just said. One is partners should be a part of your life cycle, the entire sales life cycle. And it's not easy to do that. I'm not even claiming that I've done it right. So I just think, thinking about your customer success organization and how our partners, again, we have a philosophy that we're shooting for, which is that our partners should increase our pipeline, but lower the cost of sale, improve our time to deliver and deploy, and then retain. So understanding how you work with your customer service organization is it's a big win if you can figure that out. It's massive. We're working on that as one of our initiatives for next year. So I just think that's a really good call out, because it's a huge challenge. Some people, and again, it's not going to be every partner. If you're a reseller and you may not be involved in deployment or service at all, but it doesn't mean you can't include that reseller earlier in your renewal process, right? That could be step one. So it's just a really important challenge, because what ends up happening is everyone goes, the reseller didn't help us. And then they just took the order. And it's kind of like, well, yeah, no kidding, because you didn't involve them in the renewal process. You didn't help them understand the usage of your software. The customer satisfaction scores aren't shared with our partners, for example. So the other big challenge I know we all deal with, and you mentioned, compensation plans, is the data. Like, good Lord, we sure do have issues in the partnering world, making sure that we're tracking the right data and the perception of the data is accurate. So I have a feeling that everybody has these types of problems. How do you measure influenced revenue? How do you it's super easy when someone deal regs and then closes the deal for you. That's not the problem, guys. The problem is measuring the value of all of the other amazing things that your partner is doing. And if you look at Canalys, and it talks about all of the things that partners can do for you, we started to educate internally about, we call them partnership motions that matter, right? And it's, do they transact? Do they find? Do they deploy? And we walk everybody through it. So I would just say, one of the things that keeps me up at night is data clarity, and making sure it is understood across, again, that executive organization all the way up to your CFO.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I will add to Maureen's comment to the let's say retention, adoption and retention, the expand part of the land and expand play. Um, we typically find very good alignment with partners, especially when I'm talking about tech partners, in the appetite to co-market and co-sell, which is all about land. But then when it comes to expand, because those teams, even though most cases the sales teams we have a compensation associated with the customer retention, in general, many of the co-partnership or partnership motions stop the moment the lead is landed. So they look at reveal data, crossing data, they look at the opportunities, and they see that bucket of joint clients growing. But I found very few companies in my partner ecosystem that are really willing or interested in establishing that. And this co-retention play, that's how we call it, right? It's not co-selling, it's not co-marketing, it's co-retention. Typically, you have to deal with the lack of alignment or the incentives of the counterparts in the customer success organization or the whatever go-market team they typically engage, because no one sees that as part, like an immediate benefit. But the fact is, I will give like let's say a good example, not a bad example. I get clients using Everflow and using HubSpot, or clients using Everflow and using Ringba. Um, I work with them, and there is an interest. Like if both clients are using, excuse me, the same clients are using both platforms, there is an appetite to get them to actually use the integration, because guess what? There is a number of clients not using the integration. It's a joint client. And there is a lot of reasons to explain that, maybe different teams, different use cases. But in finding that activation of integration is the ability for you to find new people using your platform, new opportunities to grow monetization inside that account. But that involves a co-adoption play that is typically absent from the role of this from the partnership leaders, right? The compensation of people that needs to do something, and sometimes they tend to see this more like something that's a nice to have. So aligning teams around that is particularly difficult with tech partners. Of course, it's not hard with agencies, because in many times when we're working with clients, we know they need help. And we know that, for example, companies, similar countries, similar segment, similar product, they should be making maybe 3-5 times more revenue than they're doing. So we know there is a growth opportunity. We engage in the conversation, we bring agencies, and agencies are very, very happy to be brought into the conversation and help these partners grow faster, because it's a natural place to do. But as much as it's easy with agencies, it's hard with tech partners. And I think that's a frontier that partnerships still need to conquer, because again, they're not thinking, the partnership leaders are not thinking customer life cycle, right? They're not thinking that we have metrics like how the number of integrations, for example, extend lifetime, right? And how much additional ARR is driven when you have more integrations. We track that as a vital metric. But when I'm meeting other partners, I realize that very few of them actually care for this. Does it make sense?
It does. It does. By the way, Ed, a lot of people are fascinated by the fact that you have an original Mac in your background. So
It's a working one. I was hoping that we were fascinated by the content, but if the Mac helps, it's, it's welcome as well. It's a working, it's a Macintosh classic.
that's great. So I think that's those are all good challenges, and it's it's kind of tough to get the get the word out about the, I think partner attribution is a challenge, and making sure that there's recognition that that of the value that partners are bringing to the to pipeline and to the broader company initiatives as well, beyond that. So, any other thoughts on challenges?
I have a ton. I would say that the alliance managers on my team they really are running point on a relationship, but sometimes when we want to talk about new business and new products, we can easily get sidetracked into a conversation about an implementation that isn't on schedule, or some responsiveness issues that a partner's customers are experiencing with us. So we have done a good job of setting up, a dedicated, partner support desk and other kinds of resources. And it took a while to get our partners accustomed to dealing with others directly and not always having to filter everything through their alliance manager. But it has allowed the alliance managers to be much more focused on the job at hand, things that are creating revenue and new opportunities, and not getting sucked into the vortex of support, for example. And so that challenge, I feel that we've come up with a good way to overcome it. It's not perfect, but it's a lot better than it was, say, 2 years ago. The other thing is we have a diverse group of partners at Avalara. Sales tax automation appeals to accountants, tax advisors, to VARs, channel partners, e-commerce agencies, SIs, and they all come to us for different reasons. The type of customers or merchants that they have, what they need from Avalara or think they need. Once they have a conversation with us, there's usually some other things we could talk about that they may need. But we do have with Deal Reg, we have a first in kind of thing, and sometimes that can create consternation and conflict between partners. So that's something unique in managing partner relationships and how our team deals with that kind of conflict. So we have focused on good ways to play referee, if you will, and come up with equitable solutions. So that is something, when we think about the problems and how we solve them, I'm glad that we have found ways to do that. And lastly, because we have so many partners that compete with each other, and I'm sure a lot of other companies like ours can relate to this, we do have to play Switzerland often. And, all partners want referrals from us. And, we can come up with, I'll call it a workaround, like using something like Crossbeam or Reveal to identify opportunities and maybe create, something new for our partners without giving them a direct referral. Those are good ways we get around that. But, there's always new conflicts and new challenges that come up every day or every week. So solving them is I like that. It's a challenge for me and my leaders to come up with ways to keep everybody happy. It's not always possible, but we keep trying.
Juggling act.
Yeah, I think on the conflict piece, right? So we have a very large direct sales organization. So it's a brand new enablement plan that we put together to simply explain when those partners are coming in and why and the value. And then you have to talk about comp plans. You have to make sure your comp plans align really well with your direct sales team. If they're losing out on margin or they have to make it up somewhere, they're not going to bring that partner in. They're always going to see them competitive to their direct sales. So I think we're solving the majority of that by clearing up our comp plans and then pushing for big enablement. But couple thousand person global sales organization. So you can't, you don't get to do a couple meetings. This is a repeat thing to make sure that they understand the value, how to work with them, and it helps us prevent that channel conflict where possible.
Gosh, so many good questions. I want to, and questions and comments.
Chip, if I may, there is something that Maureen mentioned and is related to some of the questions, and connects to one with the two questions you asked before. Inevitably, sales teams are tasked with achieving a kind of a short-term result, which is the client acquisition. There's nothing wrong with it, right? But in order to build this long-lasting relationship with partners, you need to have, let's say, a hat that is more like business development. And for those who have been doing business development in large organizations, we know it's kind of a different hat to the hat that the salespeople that are living on a forecast and are living on a closing the deal is a different mindset, right? Because when you're thinking business development, sometimes, and I've been, for example, with consulting firms or system integrators, and it's a different mentality. It's a different approach on how, as a leader, you're going to tackle this relationship. Then you have a transaction, one particular opportunity, your sales director in a given country or a given segment is dying to win, and there is all this potentially conflict. But when the relationship is elevated at a higher level, and there is this shared understanding of the value of this relationship on the long term, then you can solve conflicts. Then you can get good agreements that will affect the sales team sometimes in a way they will not like it, they will not prefer, because I also been in sales. I want to win every damn deal that comes to my hands. I don't want to lose a single one. But sometimes, inevitably, for the good of the long-term relationship, sometimes the company makes strategic choices of losing some. Like I've been in cases where you have this global agreement with a given company, and then in a given country, here comes your competitor, 20, 30% cheaper, and the local team wants to buy from that competitor, right? And they are really vested. Even the managing director in the country is pushing you. But guess what? There is a bigger understanding of this relationship in the long term. And as a leader, is your role saying, okay, I understand the transactional value of getting 20, 30% on this CapEx that you're doing for this particular technology right now, but we have a bigger play here. We have a 10, 20, 40, $50 million deal for the next 2 years, and we prefer to retire quota for this deal. So it's a different perspective. And I think that's one of the biggest problems for partnership leaders is getting people that have the business development lenses, which is not as transactional as the sales team. I'm not saying that one is better than other, but when it comes to building long-term relationships, you need to get a bigger picture, and it's easier to balance. But if the sales team is hanging entirely from the sales team and everything looks from a sales quota perspective, you might be losing long-term value. Because I don't know, if we have a lot of joint clients, it's easy to say we're driving each other's sales. But are we really? Or is just inevitable, right? That this is happening. So I think it requires a bigger perspective, and that's a leadership challenge, a people skill challenge in your team, and also reflects in your policies and how you frame your entire program. But it's many times the biggest conflicts are a due consequence of lack of clarity on this vision from the leadership teams. And I've seen this in companies like Schlumberger, Xerox, France Telecom, and many others I had a chance to be part of, is this lack of clarity in the policies and this internal tension that you want the quota with this one deal now, or you want to preserve the relationship. So it's a hard balance. Does it make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. So like I was saying, a lot of great questions coming up and comments. I think this is.
Do you mind if I grab one of them, or you got it?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
there
go
you
ahead.
go. I was going to say that was such a great question.
Yeah.
So the
From
question
Bruce.
is really around when you're interviewing and either bringing people, do you want them to have a specific set of experiences? And I will say, depending on the type, so I've run technology partnerships, and then I've run reseller and SI type partnerships as well. So I guess I would say yes. I'm not saying that you can't have an entire career path only having done alliances. I think that would be short-sighted. But I have taken people out of the sales organization at a tech company and moved them into partnerships because they had both sides. They'd sold our product, so they were deep in understanding the product, which means they can go identify the technology that we needed to do from a partnership and an integration perspective. And so that was just a huge, I guess it just made them more impactful quicker for me. The other thing is that we are actually working on career pathing inside Okta so that we can help people understand ways of getting into alliances. And we're finding that people that were SEs, so sales engineers, wildly successful inside tech partners and also inside SIs. Because if you think about it, you need to be able to explain and get them through their enablement and their training in a really effective way. So having them, again, be a sales engineer, be in the product, having to sell the product, super fast ramp time when you move them over into alliances. So that was another big one.
That's really interesting, Maureen, because I can see an SE would also know where the challenges are in the product and where the gaps are.
So go find a partner to do it.
Find a partner to do it.
Go
Exactly.
grab that partner. Yeah. Yeah. We're lucky enough. We actually have partner SEs. So we have partner sales engineers just focused on our partners. But when you look at career path or you're trying to bring in people, so again, I just love this question. I also think it matters what level you're bringing people in at, right? So I think you could have great alliance leaders who own a small set of partners if from a lot of different backgrounds. We also have partner sales type roles. Those are people that are supposed to be aligned in field. They have to understand how to sell, the challenges of the sales process. So I see them most successful from our SE organization, from sales, customer success, not as often. And I actually don't know why. I don't know if it is a perception of, hey, I can't work with multiple partners. But I think that's a really, really interesting question. And I would just give advice that if you're trying to encourage people to move into alliances or indirect sales in any way, show the career pathing, make it really clear, and give people options, open office hours, or you can shadow our team. I think it's really important and valuable because guess what? You don't want them to leave, right? You don't want them to leave your company. They have such institutional knowledge. So how do you pull them into your team, and how do you show them their skill sets are really, really clear and a great path to come into alliances?
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. Well, and Maureen, I brought this comment up from John Connolly. If there's somebody from customer success that might be a fit in partner success role.
Yeah, we do have partner success sits under customer first. So it was really confusing. So let me just, when I first moved over into this role out of corp dev, I was like, why is partner success not under the partner org? Okay. It's a really clear reason. If you're sitting under customer success, it's where our professional services team sits. It's where all the technical champions and technical customer success sits. And if you pull them out, and actually I was chatting with a colleague and a friend over at Palo Alto. So when you pull people out and you make them only inside your org, they lose that extra training. They lose those tools that other team has already built for your large and growing direct customers. So I think that's a great path, and it's really important. I have been in small companies at startups where everything sat under the partner org until we got bigger, and then I would move partner marketing out to marketing, partner success into customer success, because you want them tied all the way through to deep understanding of your products and deep understanding of how you go to market.
Fantastic. Gosh, let's see. Some good questions rolling in here.
I'll take one that Bruce pointed. He asked about
This one?
are the sales leaders knowledgeable? Yeah. Respecting partners. So we have our model's a little different at Avalara. Our team, we have many sales teams, and they get opportunities from all sorts of sources. The sales development team, lots of advertising we do. But what we get from partners tends to be more valuable. We have the partners involved, and we do have more of a referral motion than a reseller motion. So our sales teams are doing most of the selling, but they get a lot of insights and knowledge from the partners. The partners typically have relationships with their customers that we can only dream about, quite honestly. They can be 10, 15-year or longer relationships. So they know where the champions are, within a prospect, where the detractors are, what products might be a good fit for their customer. Mm-hmm. So we get a lot of that. So they're very involved. The alliances team is managing the relationship at the highest levels. We do partner planning, QBRs, a lot of alignment that way. But all of the sales executives are aligned to individual partner sales reps within a partner organization. So it makes for a very collaborative kind of way we work together between the alliances team and the sales teams. And I do feel that the most successful sales executives at Avalara are the ones that are more partner focused than not. Some of our more junior sales executives that don't have a lot of partner experience, it takes them a long time to develop the relationships with the partner sales reps and to develop the right kind of cadence, when to involve them, when to kind of just have them available if needed. So there's a real art to it. And I think, the seasoned sales executives get that. So the value of partnerships, even if it creates some short-term pain, for example, we have a lot of partners that do implementations for us. And when a partner is good enough to do that, the sales exec at Avalara recognizes that. And even though they might not get that services revenue as part of their ASP on the deal, they know that long-term we're going to get more referrals from that partner. And that's just, as a partner person, that's a wonderful thing to see, because, balancing the short-term desires of a sales executive against long-term benefits of a partner relationship, when that happens, it's just great. So
yeah, and even if it may go to another region or it's another sales rep, but not necessarily, right? Because if they've developed that strong relationship with the partner, then there'll be more potential opportunities coming in as well. So I love that.
Exactly.
So here's a question from Justin I thought could be interesting. What are some good examples of metrics to measure LTV of partner relationship?
Well, there are two that I mentioned earlier, which is that we love. And I intentionally want to steer away from the classic of measuring the impact in client acquisition, right? Which is not less important. But something we love to see is how the relationship with partners is increasing. Like when our clients are using those partners, we have these joint relationships, joint clients, how that is adding lifetime in terms of additional month as clients, and how that is adding ARR or MRR, if you want to measure this monthly. That's a critical metric because it really shows you that there are some combinations that when you have that joint client with that partner, you actually drive better results, better monetization. That is very telling of true value creation. And then, of course, we have the traditional quote unquote metrics. Like in our case, we have a 2.3 times higher conversion rate when it's partner sourced. We have 3.3 times faster closing rate, which is very relevant. It's like adding something like 7 weeks a year of productivity for sales team. And so it's, let's say, it's ultimately the most capital efficient way to drive client acquisition, at least in our case.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm looking at watching the clock, and time has gone by
Getting close.
so quickly. We had a few other things that
I can just rattle off a couple quick things,
Yeah.
Chip. You want me to some other things we measure? We do measure the number of projects that a partner takes on to implement. We track the number of individuals within a partner organization that we've trained, that have attended a training that just gives them all sorts of insights on products and strategies, talk tracks, how to identify opportunities. We track the number of individual reps referring within a partner organization. We track co-marketing activities, and we track for the alliance managers. They have a patch of partners, and we track the percentage of those partners that are referring and the percentage that have closed won deals. So those are some of the key things we track besides opportunities and bookings, which are the obvious ones.
Yeah. So in the last few minutes before we wrap, maybe one of the topics we wanted to talk about is emerging trends. Any thoughts there? I mean, obviously, Gen AI is on everybody's mind. But how, is that it? Are there other things, or how are you seeing that Gen AI coming out in terms of partnerships?
So just to be really direct, we're not thinking about it other than maybe looking at new PRM systems and how they might leverage it. From a product perspective, it's massive for us.
Yeah.
Right. If you're in identity and security, how do you take all of the pieces of data and give the customer options proactively? So we've really focused on it. Now, how it impacted partnerships is for any AI to work really well, or even machine learning, honestly, it's about the data you have the rights to use. So if you go down to the basic of the product that you can build off of it. So really, we spent significant time ensuring we brought certain integration partners in early and made sure we were super clear on the rights that we had to leverage the data to enhance a product use case. So again, what I would say as a partnership person, you can leverage it for maybe some of your tools, but one of your responsibilities is also to your own in-house legal organization and to compliance. So please make sure if you are building products around AI, this is my little warning to you all. Make sure you've thought about, are your contracts, if you have integration partners and tech partners, have all your contracts been updated, and do you have rights to leverage anything that they give to you in a new service or product?
Good point.
My parting thoughts on that is, of course, I think the biggest disruption is going to be bigger than the internet itself, is a disruption. And we're just seeing the very, very beginning, because most of the applications for AI are very transactional. But the real massive transformation will be when AI takes over like functions and entire processes that will continuously execute things more than just, the metaphor we have today when you ask a question to a ChatGPT and you get an answer. So more from transactional to something where it owns a process and is continuously running optimization of that process, or executing or delivering on that process, is going to create fundamental transformation. And there is this one thought that I remember when I was leading this global innovation team with Cisco, and there were all these concerns about the future. And these German futurologists say this phrase that stick with me, which is, in a world where everything is getting more and more automated, the response for us is be more human, right? And this is something that maybe you want to call it a comforting thought, but the reality is AI will take over the other things. Like, think about your dashboards. Any app that has a dashboard is a matter of time until you have a great AI solution that will actually give you the right insight. So you don't even need to go on a daily basis and look at the dashboard, right? that's happening already. There is I know a couple of companies actually doing that. It creates a very uncertain environment, but there is the human factor, right? And when we talk about partnerships in particular, partnership is about relationship. Partnership is about getting a bigger view of this opportunity that might be supported by numbers generated by the AI. So people in partnerships will be even more essential in a world powered by AI technology to really create this substrate of human relationships, the tap on the network effect. Yes, leveraged by tools, leveraged by data, but the role of people in being humans and maintaining these relationships will become even more important, right? Just like in a world with a lot of massive advertisement, guess what? Creator economy emerged in the last 5 years as the biggest driving influence for sales in business to consumer. Why? If we have all these amazing technologies, because of human factor, because we believe in people. The biggest factor in trusting a technology today is a peer recommendation. Why? You have so many websites, you have so many tools. Well, guess what? I'm going to ask my peer, what are you using for this? And they tell me Okta, they tell me Workspan, they tell me Avalara. I will go after, I will place a big trust, and decisions are made by people. So I think that there is a good comeback to understanding the huge role that people have. And that's why the people qualities are so important, the ones that we're mentioning before as leaders. And yes, transformations will continue to happen with technology, especially driven by AI.
Focus on people.
Yeah, agree
Good.
with all that.
Great point. Well, you know what? We're right at the top of the hour. Thank you, guys. You've been a fantastic panel and really shared a lot. And I think it shows in the comments and questions that everyone's been making along the way. And so thank you guys, panel, for joining, and thanks everybody in the audience for joining as well. I'll just say a final word. Please do take our survey, and because we love to improve and love to hear your thoughts about it. And then also join us again on December 12th, when we'll have Kelly Lear and Brian Christian and Rob Spee joining on another pro panel coming up in December. So, all right, I think with that, thank you. Maureen, Ed, Jeff,
Thanks, Maureen
fantastic,
and Ed.
awesome panel. Great job.
Okay. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, guys.